We break down the Chicago Bears 2022 schedule next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and it's been too long since I have said that. It's been 2.5 weeks to be precise, since the last episode. So thank you so much for tuning back in, hitting subscribe, liking, downloading the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you guys so much. It's been too long. Like I mentioned, I actually took a week off, and that week turned into 2.5 weeks because I got COVID. My pregnant wife got COVID. My two kids got COVID. We were knocked out for quite some time. So because of that, just had to take some time just to kind of like regroup. Took a lot out of me, but now we are back to break down the Chicago Bears 2022 schedule. It's been released, it's been out there for a while, and I just want to kind of talk through what I expect to happen and kind of talk through how easy this schedule is, definitely compared to our older schedules, but it's a pretty easy schedule on paper. But what should we expect from the Bears? Because this is ranked as a top 10 easiest schedule, which is nice to have. But we will break that down. But first, I actually just want to give you a little bit more personal news. So for those that remember my old co-host Blake, so his best friend Colton, and a personal family friend of mine, he's been diagnosed with a rare form of cancer, and his family has we've set up a GoFundMe for him and his family to help pay for medical bills and anything that they need. So I'm going to leave that link in the description. So anything that you can contribute, thank you so much. It helps out his family tremendously. And I also wanted to let everybody know that listens, that I personally am going to be donating every single penny that this podcast makes this month over to his family. So thank you so much for listening anyways. But it even means even more that I can actually donate money to a good cause, and people that need it right now and need our help. So thank you guys all so much. Like I said, it means the world that you guys listen, and it means even more that I could do something like this for a good family friend of mine. So thank you so much. Links down in the description. And yeah, thank you guys. But let's get into this. Let's switch gears. Let's go over to the Bears schedule. So like I said, the Chicago Bears schedule is actually the sixth easiest, according, I believe, to ESPN. So, like I said, a pretty easy schedule, all things considered. But still, Vegas has the Bears as a over under 6.5. That's not good when you consider that we won just about that many games last year. So that's why we're going to be just talking through how many games do I expect them to win. This isn't betting advice, but we'll kind of break that down. I know a lot of people say slam the under, but we'll discuss that next. So before we even kind of break down this schedule, I actually want to just talk about what do I expect for the Bears? Because when we flip over to the schedule, it's pretty easy. It's there's a lot of teams that we should be able to get some easy wins with, but the bigger question is, well, what about the Bears? What do I think about the Bears, and how do I think that they're going to fare this year as a whole? Now, I could create an entire episode about what the Bears could do, and what I think the Bears will do next season. But this is honestly one of the hardest schedules, hardest seasons to predict. That personally, I feel that way because we have a brand new head coach, but it's not that. We have a brand new offensive coordinator. We have a brand new defensive coordinator. We have a super, super skilled ball of clay in Justin Fields, who's been the most talented quarterback we've ever had. He can run, he can throw, he's accurate. He has everything that you need out of that quarterback position. And that's why it's such a crazy type of year. I just saw someone from ESPN said that the Bears are going to be a playoff team. And then I see from SI, they're projecting the Bears as the worst team in the NFL. That's where the Bears are at right now. You're either like, they can make the playoffs, or they're terrible. And the reason is because of Justin Fields and this coaching staff. You're putting so much into this team that can they turn the corner? Because if you look at last year, this offense was terrible. We all know the reason why. We all know that it was Matt Nagy. This scheme was terrible. So now it was crap. So you're hoping that Luke Getsy can create an offensive scheme that's slightly better than crap. Because if it's slightly better than crap, you're going to see progression on this offense. But then some of the naysayers do say, well, you lost Jason Peters. And when you had the two rookies, Jenkins and Borman, they weren't that great. Like they were okay, but are you really going to rely on them? You lost James Daniels, a good right guard, and now you have Lucas Patrick, who is a backup. And these are all concerns that are being brought up by the NFL media. And now you don't have Allen Robinson. Yet again, did not produce in this scheme, but still a highly talented player that we let walk out the door. So ultimately, what I think about this team is I think on offense, you got worse from a talent perspective. But the scheme was so bad that as long as you're just like, all right, the scheme, in my opinion, should take this system up a notch. And I think something too that not a lot of people have been talking about. Remember when Matt Nagy was head coach for his first year? The offense, it wasn't amazing, but the offense looked good. And the reason is because you don't have tape on a first year head coach. So you have 1 year to really kind of make this thing happen. And then you can hopefully then we start bringing in more talent because now they have tape on you and now you got to be smart. Now you got to change. Matt Nagy could not change. So I think that's another benefit for the Bears is that in this Getsy system, this offensive system, people don't have tape on it. So I do think that the Bears have an upper hand with that, especially from a scheme perspective. I still think this is going to be a middle of the road offense. We have a very good running back in Montgomery and Herbert. So I think that this is going to be middle of the road. With the potential for being amazing depending on what type of leap Justin Fields has. But it yet again, it could be great, it could be bad. And I see too the people that hate the Bears this year also are big naysayers in Justin Fields. He plays the most important position. And no matter that the entire team might have taken a step back, but if Justin Fields takes a gigantic step forward, this team will also take a gigantic step forward. But I think this offense is going to get slightly better. And I think that this defense is going to be probably middle of the road. But because you lost a lot of star power, a lot of leaders. So it's really, yet again, about the coaching staff. Can you bring these people together? Because you're building around Roquan. Before, you had Trevathan, you had Akeem Hicks, you had Mac. And even though that a lot of those people were injured or just flat out didn't play, um, there's still leaders out there. This is still a team sport, and leadership goes a long way. That's just some of the reasons why I think that this defense is going to be solid. I think it's going to be good, kind of middle of the road. But I think yet again, where you kind of have those swings, this defense is all about creating turnovers. What positions create turnovers? Secondary. You have Tavon Young, who's highly injured, but when he's healthy, is a good slot corner. You have Kyler Gordon, who's a good draft pick, but yet again, rookies a lot of times don't go in and they don't just completely ball out. A lot of times they're just kind of okay. And same thing with Jaquan Brisker. You're expecting a lot out of these rookies. So yet again, this could be a big swing depending also on how many turnovers you get. Turnovers can help mask a lot of inefficiencies with offense and defense because you are able to just kind of turn the ball over, bring it back the other way. And that's why this year is going to be just absolutely nuts. We could literally be the worst team. We could be a playoff team. It's pretty much a big, wide variety, wide net that we can cast on the Chicago Bears team because we'll see if Justin Fields is the answer and if this coaching scheme is the answer this year. But so overall, though, I think that this team is just kind of middle of the road, and with potential to be very good. But I want to just mention this too, just because we're talking about people that project this team out. Uh, the PFF team, I was looking at this, the PFF numbers have the Bears as a 5.3 worse team than the average team. So that's not promising. PFF isn't everything, but they do make a lot of betting stuff, and that's just the reason the team took a step back when it comes down to talent. But yet again, all on Justin Fields. And I think Justin Fields will step forward because he's going to have a better coaching staff around him. Simple as that. But let's switch over to the actual schedule. Let's get into this. So I think that they're just an okay team. But also, I will say too, as I was going through this, as I was looking at the roster, it kind of made me get a little bit more nervous because I think that the Bears definitely, it's either you're getting better or you're getting worse. They're taking a lot of gambles on people that were honestly backups. It's not a far-fetched thing. They're taking a lot of gambles on potential backups because they had to get cost controlled. It's not like I'm saying set Ryan Poles' house on fire. What I'm saying is I'm saying that he did what he could with the situation that was around him. But really what we got here is we have the regular season. So obviously we got the 3 preseason games that we don't necessarily care too much about. But let's get into this regular season. So week 1, we have the 49ers coming in to Chicago. Now, this is a game that I'm actually very interested in because to me, the week 1, anything can happen week 1. I saw that the Jags won one year. I think it was against the Colts. They just absolutely dominated. And then they didn't win another game for like the entire year. Anything can happen week 1, especially with the new coaching scheme. So to me, I lean towards, well, the Bears could actually make this thing happen. But then when you look at the 49ers, they still, yes, they have Trey Lance, who's going to be their quarterback, but I still have faith in Shanahan, just a quarterback whisperer out there. And also another big question, what about Debo? That's another question going into this game. He could be traded, but a lot of times the 49ers just take a little bit longer to kind of have that negotiation and then extend that player. So overall, though, the Niners are a very, very good team. And I'm actually going to mark this as an L. I don't think that the Bears ultimately win that game just because the level of greatness of the 49ers. But I do think this could be a trap game for the 49ers because like I said, of this being the first week with Luke Getsy, the first week with this defense, they don't know what to expect. We don't know what to expect with Trey Lance, but there's more unknown with the Chicago Bears, and it could be we could use that into our favor. Um, Next week, though, we go over to week 2. We have the unfortunate Green Bay Packers. We are traveling out to Green Bay for the Luke Getsy revenge game against Green Bay. And guys, I know I was looking at the Green Bay team and I just was shaking my head. They have a really good team. If you just ignore the wide receivers, which you can kind of because of Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, this is a very good team. The Packers are very good. And listen, this is going to be a statement game. Luke Getsy coming in. You're going to see what he can do as an offensive coordinator. And also, the big thing is we want to beat Green Bay. That is the number one thing. What does Eberflus do? What do the players do? We need to beat Green Bay. Is this going to be another I own you game from Aaron Rodgers? To me, I've learned my lesson. Anytime that I pick the Bears to beat the Packers destroy us. So to me, I am not going to fall into this trap. And it pains me to say this. It's just Bears, you guys have to win. You guys have to show that you can beat the Packers. So to me, this is another L. I don't think that this is anything too crazy. You're going against 2 playoff teams in the first 2 weeks. So we might start 0-2, and then you're going to start to see all the ESPN graphics of, no team ever goes to the playoffs 0-2. This is fine. Next year is going to be our year. This year is all about growth and development. But moving on, now this is when we start to get into the good teams, aka the reasons why this is one of the easiest schedules. Now we go into the Texans. Texans, one of the worst teams out there. The sad part is looking at their team. It reminds me a little bit about the Bears, but still, we are a by far a better team. This is low key the Lovey Smith revenge game. So I do think that Lovey Smith might be, coming out with the beard and being like, all right, we got to destroy you guys. He's coming to Chicago, and especially at Chicago, the way that the Texans are, I'm marking this as a dub. But guys, this is a sneaky, sneaky game because the Texans are not good. But man, Lovey Smith will be like, we might lose every single game, but we are going to beat the Bears. So watch out for this. I still have it as a win because of the Houston Texans. I think that the Bears ultimately end up winning this game. Now, next, the New York Football Giants. The New York Giants, yet again, this is when, as I was going through some of these games, it made me feel a little bit more down on the Chicago Bears because looking at a team like the Giants, who I don't think they're good. They look like a very good team on paper. They have definitely gotten better, and that's what kind of gets you a little bit nervous. The Bears are all hoping on upside. You're hoping on rookies and and backups with high upside that you're giving opportunities for. The Giants have a solid receiving core with Tony and everybody. So ultimately, though, even though that they've kind of retooled some of this offensive line, I still don't trust Daniel Jones. Even though that you're going to New York, I still think that if you're trying to develop some turnovers, I think that the Bears ultimately take this. I can't in good conscience say that the Giants would beat the Bears. So right now we're 2-2. You lose against the two really good teams up front, then you end up winning 2 games after that. Now we hit another divisional foe with the Minnesota Vikings. Now, guys, whenever we play the Vikings, I'm always like, we're going to win. We're going to win. But yet again, Matt Nagy, actually, it wasn't even really Matt Nagy. It was Akeem Hicks. Guys, if Akeem Hicks is on this team, we win this game. Akeem Hicks is the wrecker of Minnesota. My father-in-law, he's the Minnesota Vikings fan. He's like, dude, that guy, just Akeem Hicks destroys Dalvin Cook every single game, and we no longer have him as of today. So to me, I get nervous because now you actually start looking at the Minnesota Vikings as a legit team, and they're a dang good team. They have Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, say what you will. The guy can play. He's a good quarterback in this league. He's not amazing. I don't want him as the Chicago Bears quarterback, but he's still a solid quarterback. And they seem to have plugged a lot of holes on during this offseason. Now they have a lot of rookies like a Lewis Sign that's going to be starting potentially, or an Andrew Booth Jr. starting at cornerback. Um, but still, this is a pretty good team. So because of that, especially traveling to Minnesota, I don't see this as a win. I see this as a loss because you're the away team and you're going against a good team. If we sign Akeem Hicks, I might be changing this to a win just because of Akeem Hicks. But guys, Minnesota's a good team. Just with Cousins though, it's a very hit or miss type of situation. So to me now, we're 2-3. This is not looking too good for the Chicago Bears, but this is just the reality of it. But you can also see why this isn't that difficult of a schedule so far. A lot of these are winnable games, maybe except for Green Bay. The only reason why I constitute 49ers as a winnable game is because it is week 1. You're going against a very good team, and you can potentially surprise them with some stuff. But then next, this is the Commanders. This was yet again another team that I'm like, this is a win. Easy dub. But guys, the Commanders have retooled. They've gotten, a Jahan Dotson as their wide receiver. And you look at that team, they got Curtis Samuel, they got Jahan Dotson, they have then they have the other star wide receiver. I can't believe Terry McLaurin. I can't believe I was forgetting his name. But they're a good team. The only thing that I feel like the Bears could beat them because they have Carson Wentz as their quarterback. So here you have the people from the Colts, Eberflus, Alan Williams coming in going, we know how to scare you guys. We know how to get in his face. And that's why initially this was a win for me because I thought that the Bears could generate some pressure. I think that they will generate pressure. I think they will get into the face. But this team is a very good team. And that's why to me, this is another L. But seriously, yet again, this is a very winnable game for the Bears because of their scheme. And then hopefully they can force Carson Wentz to do, Carson Wentz things and end up turning over the football, ultimately letting the Bears win this game. Now, let's continue to keep on moving forward. And now we are traveling all the way out to New England. So at New England, we're playing them on Monday Night Football. And this is the or not Daniel Jones, Mac Jones versus Justin Fields. We're going to be hearing about this all week. Who is the better first round quarterback? Should the Bears have actually gone with Justin Fields? The answer is yes, they should. They should still do that. But with Mac Jones, what gets me nervous is Bill Belichick always seems to have our number. This is a new system, this is a new regime, but no matter what, he always has our number. um, and the thing that gets me nervous with Belichick as well, we all know this because we've all been saying Mac Jones isn't that great because he just does dump offs. And I remember hearing that this system, yet again, Alan Williams is going to do his own spin on this defensive system. This defensive system likes to allow a lot of easy passes. What does New England do really well? They do easy passes. So to me, I just don't see us being able to do that much. If they are just doing some easy dump offs, it sounds like that's one of the biggest weaknesses with this defense. So because of that, I think they might be moving the ball very efficiently against us, and ultimately we end up losing. But this is also yet again kind of going back. This is a winnable game because I'm basing the L off of I think that they're going to be able to move the ball against us. But the New England defense has really taken a step back. They've lost a lot of their big playmakers, and you look overall, this is not a very good defense. If Belichick and Fat Patricia can make this defense good, hats off to them because this defense, to me, on paper, does not look good. It would have to be a Justin Fields type of game where he kind of takes over and really dominates in order for us to be able to win. But still, a winnable game because they're not absolutely incredible, but just definitely taking a step back this year. Now, next game, we're traveling from New England all the way over to Dallas for Sunday for a noon game. Now, Dallas, this is a team that has, in my opinion, kind of taken a step back. You lose some people on defense, you lose some offensive linemen, you lose Amari Cooper. This team might have taken a step back, but still, I think this is a very good team. I think they're going to be able to pass heavily on us, and Dak is still a good quarterback. So to me, simple. I just think that this is an L, but yet again, this can be a winnable game. We're talking about NFC least here. I think Dallas did take a step back this year, so I think that you're going to see Dak miss Amari Cooper a little bit more, but still to me an L overall. But now next we are at week 9 and we have the Dolphins. So week 9, Dolphins Sunday night. I mean, not Sunday night. It's Sunday in Chicago. And this was another one of those games that I was like, well, I think that the Bears should be able to win, right? I don't love the Dolphins. I don't believe in Tua. And that's the big question going into this is who is going to be the better quarterback? Because if Justin Fields comes in and let's say Tua is not taking that step, they might have added Tyreek Hill, but he's just not able to throw it because they don't have the quarterback to be able to throw and make big plays. That is all stuff that could happen. And the Dolphins, too, defense is solid, but it always seems like they never really truly bring everything together. They're under a new regime, so they're going to be an interesting team because to me, they can either boom or they can be kind of that below average type of team. Um, Overall, though, I think with their skilled defensive backs, and I think with their overall speed, I think yet again this is another game that we lose. This is not looking good for us, guys. This is my projections. Like I said, when I was going through this, I was like, oh man, this made me feel a little bit worse, but still, we have a lot of winnable games. We're at the halfway point in the season, and we have 2 wins. So we are currently 2-7. Good thing this is our rebuilding year. And that's why we have the second half of the year. Yet again, not a crazy first half. But the second half, now this is when we start getting the Lions. So the Lions, even though that they did get better, They're just still building from the trenches, building out. I still don't see this team being absolutely amazing. I think next year, you can kind of expect a little bit more from the Lions. But for right now, this is where we can win. I don't think that they're that great. And I just put another L. That is a dub. The Chicago Bears win against the Detroit Lions. So now this is when we start. In my mind, this is where we start racking up some of the wins because I think Houston, Giants, easy wins there. But then now we have the Lions win. And then now we go to Atlanta. Atlanta, another bad team without a quarterback. You're talking about Marcus Mariota, um, or you are talking about Desmond Ritter. I think that Atlanta is a pretty easy win. They just seem to be in shambles right now without having Ridley either. This team is just going to be, I think it's going to be fairly easy for the Bears to go against them, especially since Kyle Pitts is kind of their big guy. I think you can easily match up with whether it is a Kyler Gordon, whether it is a Jalen Johnson, or if you even put a Roquan Smith on them. I think we match up well. I think we can play well against Atlanta. And I think ultimately we end up winning against the Atlanta Falcons. And now, the following week, we go against the Jets. And now, guys, this is what's crazy too. The Bears don't have a bye week until week 14. We're at week 12. And this is where I think when you look at the teams, it's a sixth easiest schedule. But when you start to see that you have to wait till week 14 for a bye, that's a very, very long time for a rookie head coach, rookie OC, and with this team to just kind of go through everything and not really make those adjustments. You would have liked it to be a little bit earlier to make your adjustments and then continue going. But still, it's the way that it is. So week 12, going to New York to go against the Jets. And this is another game that I feel confident in. I'm not a Zach Wilson believer. And yes, I know that they've added a couple more wide receivers. The offensive line slightly better. I don't really believe in Zach Wilson. And I think it really hinges on this quarterback position. The defense isn't crazy good. So I think ultimately the Bears end up winning and beating the Jets. And Justin Fields shows that they should have went with him rather than Zach Wilson. So see, 3 wins in a row. Now we're 5-7. But now we are having the Packers come home to the Chicago Bears inside of Chicago. And guys, yet again, I'll say this again. I am not saying that the Packers will beat the Bears. I will not say that the Bears are going to beat the Packers until they actually do it. So Eberflus, prove me wrong. Show me what you can do because no matter what, no matter new regime, whatever it is, the Bears, the Packers, Aaron Rodgers will always be here and he will always just focus in on this game and just try to wreck us as bad as he can, especially because he said that he owns us. You know that this is going to be a game that he circled, that he is just going to try way too hard for, because it always seems like he does that anyways. So to me, that's a loss. That's a loss for us, unfortunately. And now we finally go into the bye week. So week 14, go into the bye week, and then we only have 4 games left. So yet again, the second half, I kind of think that it's a little bit easier because you started off with 3 easy teams, then the Packers, then a bye week, and then we go. Then the Eagles are coming to Chicago to go against us. And guys, I think that this Eagles team is going to be very good this year. Just with Jalen Hurts kind of taking a step and them just adding a little bit more bodies, a little bit more talent, AJ Brown. I think this team is going to be really good and very difficult for people to go against. So to me, this is another loss for the Chicago Bears. I think it's going to be. You still have a mobile quarterback, and the Bears could potentially do well with that. I think too, this defense you can attack it in its secondary for the Eagles, and it's really about what Justin Fields can do. I think with Justin Fields taking a bigger step, I think you can turn some of these L's into dubs. And this would actually be one of those games that you could. But for right now, it's an L right now. And then next week, Christmas Eve on Saturday, we are going against the Bills. The Bills are coming over to Chicago. Yet again, another reason why this is an easier second half of the schedule. At the end, you have 3 home games after your bye. So you'll love to see it right before the end of the season. But you're going against the Eagles, which I project as a loss, and the Bills, which I also project as a loss. You're talking about Josh Allen, very good. I do think that this is another team that has taken a step back. Personally, I think that they've lost a decent amount of talent, but still, I think that this team is they're a Super Bowl contender for a reason. Kyle Brandt said that they're going to win the Super Bowl for a reason. So that's why I think another loss for the Chicago Bears. And now we go to Detroit. Now we have 2 games left. And I think overall, the Lions, I can't in good conscience say that the Bears are going to lose to the Lions. So to me, it's another win for the Chicago Bears, going to Detroit and beating the Detroit Lions. They're going to definitely be pesky on New Year's Day, but I still think that the Bears end up pulling it off. And the last week, at the very end, week 18, the Chicago Bears go against the Vikings at home in Chicago. And this to me, I think that I always like to say that the Bears split with the Vikings. So to me, I actually will open up the schedule and go loss and dub. But when we had Akeem Hicks, it was always dub. So to me, I think that we split against the Vikings with a loss and a win. But really, this is it's not, there's a lot of red. There's a lot of red on this schedule overall with only 7 wins. So not great. 7-10 is what I have the Bears being projected at. So winning 7 games is not terrible, especially since we are talking about this being a rebuilding year for the Chicago Bears. So can we be proud of that? Yeah, because remember, next year we have over $100 million dollars in cap space. And I think that's the thing that we need to be looking forward to is we got rid of a lot of good players that had bad deals. And what we're going to do is we are really kind of moving over towards next season and seeing what can we build with this current team, and who should stick for the following season. So to me, I got 7 wins. Let me know what you think too, because this seems very abysmal. But yet again, guys, you're looking at this 49ers, we could surprise everybody week 1. That would be another win. So now you're talking about 8 wins. Minnesota, we could beat them both times because of Kirk Cousins. Maybe we have his number. Commanders, New England, Dallas, Dolphins, all those games are games that could go either way. It's really about Justin Fields. And, same thing, even with the Eagles and Bills. So there's a handful of really good teams with the Eagles, Bills, and Packers and 49ers. But I think, Commanders, New England, Minnesota, Dallas, Dolphins are all kind of middle of the pack types of teams that we will definitely be able to compete with. So don't mean to bring it down with just seven games. That's why you're kind of seeing that 6.5, not saying pound the over, but it really kind of depends all on Justin Fields. So guys, thank you so much. Like I said before, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to donate to Colton's fund down in the description. And thank you guys so much. And Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.